Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. We are broadcasting live here via International Public Radio on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM in the beautiful city of New Orleans. The segment tonight is fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee. So thank you, Folgers. Nobody loves you more than us, just saying. So tonight, of course, we welcome back Dr. Rita Louise, and she will be discussing empaths and narcissists. This should be a lot of fun. In order to participate in the show, you will notice we are streaming across at least 8 different platforms, one being Twitter, one being Twitch. Of course, there's International Public Radio, there's UFO Paranormal Radio YouTube channels, and there are the networks. I believe there's 3 of the networks' Facebook channels also that you can just get on there and feel free to get in chat. But the only way you can really interact with us and get an immediate response will be UFO Paranormal Radio on YouTube. And please tag Amelia if there's something that you want to know or you want a response or an acknowledgement. Otherwise, we can see all the comments here. And I love Folgers more than you do, Michelle Millins. I don't know. It depends on the time of the morning, maybe, because I don't. We struggle to get it here, but right now, let me tell you what.
We are grateful.
Very grateful.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we are
cute.
Clear and good to go. Here we are. So. All right, we're good. So I see somebody got in to see the nail people today. Go stay up and watch for aliens. Oh, got to stay up and watch for aliens. Yeah, that'll help. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Yeah, not me.
I do it. Yeah, I do it. I like alien watching. Absolutely. Nope. I'm down.
Nope.
Nope. Not doing it.
No. I wonder if they're narcissists or empaths.
The aliens? I don't know.
Has anyone ever profiled one? I'm wondering.
I think maybe it depends on the alien. I hear those reptilians are pretty into themselves and such. So,
yeah, just a little
bit.
Full
of themselves. And I don't know. It would be interesting just to sit in a room with different ones and be like,
I have to tell you though, if you Google enough, and Dr. Rita is going to laugh at me. I know she can hear me. If you Google enough, you kind of, at the end of that period of time that you're researching, believe you're a narcissist at the end of it. So I'm really looking forward to her being here. Yeah, I think that we all have those tendencies, not necessarily personalities.
I agree with you.
Because I know I'm an empath because I am empathic and it's one of my gifts, but I can see narcissistic tendencies in me at times, and I
think
you're
right though.
Yeah,
I think it is a little bit. I think everybody's got their little sliver in there, just like I believe that everybody has a little bit of empath in them.
Absolutely.
I tend to,
except the narcissist.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm empathic, not overboard, but then I also learned at a young age to sort of just push that off because I'm a little volatile as well. I think it kind of supersedes a bit, but narcissism, I think for sure. I think everybody, I was funny enough, last week having a conversation with somebody about that. And he said, well, everybody's a narcissist to a degree. Everybody's got a little piece of them.
Little bit, yeah.
And where you say something and you have to include yourself and this and this, and oh my God, I've done it, but yet I don't know, cruel narcissists.
No, I believe
some
that
people are hardcore.
Yes, yes,
right?
And empaths are, and we'll be talking about this with Dr. Rita Louise. The empaths, I believe, sometimes their fight or flight comes in, and that narcissistic tendency comes in as a defense. But we will be talking about all of that.
It'll be interesting because I want to know if narcissists are attracted to empaths. Can they sniff them out or something? I think I want to know.
I think it goes both ways.
Yeah, maybe.
Seriously,
it's true. Yeah, it would make a lot of sense.
I can name more, and I hope you're all listening, family. I can name more. I can name more narcissists in my life than I can empaths, which is really sad when you start to think. It's really sad. But
Yeah.
I
So
think I've learned over the years how to deal with them a little bit better. I look for peace. I don't think I'm confrontational. I have to be attacked. I have to be attacked
or feel like you're being attacked.
like I'm being attacked for me, but I will not go out and start something. Like I'll be in my family. I'm speaking for my family. How I am with other people, whole other ball game. Right. But I try to keep the peace, but I'm so tired of being picked at that I just respond now. It's just an automatic.
Do you notice it more because, I mean, let's face it, we live in like difficult times, right? And we're going to ask Dr. Rita Louise the same thing, but just since you are empathic, and, and you clearly are surrounded by them, narcissists, do you think, are they worse maybe because we have lockdown and everything else and they're just not getting it out and spreading it around so they save it for you? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a way
save it for like that one phone call a week. Like really? I agree with you. I think we all are feeling it. We just deal with it differently. Right. For me, it's more, you'll see, Michelle knows me so well. Like I'm very down with this lockdown, because I'm not getting that social time. And I see Michelle here and we work together, but we used to see each other all the time. It's different in person. You exchange energies. It's different,
Oh, for sure. And at least when we're when we used, like, for those of you who don't know, we were actually in a radio station here too. So we got to see each other every week. Yeah. And Amelia used to bring me like actually home cooked like special food.
It was right after dinner. So I'm like, hey, I'll just make extra. Don't cook dinner, Michelle. I'm bringing you dinner. Yeah. It was a joy for me. I enjoyed it,
Yeah, me too. Tremendously. And now I'm kind of like,
and now she's like, I'm really craving. I go, don't worry. I'm working on all these recipes for when we can have that big party, like seriously. We're bringing out the French champagne, man. Like I'm serious.
Damn lockdown has just ruined everything.
More ways than one. Michelle's favorite wine is hard to find. So like I've been buying bottles and storing them, for that big night. For that big night. But like good. it's just crazy, right? It's just, I think I honestly believe it's affecting everybody tremendously. But I feel like, and I think that some narcissists, maybe it's turning them around. I don't want to say it's making them worse. Some of them maybe might be realizing and seeing what's happening and humbling themselves a little bit.
We empaths feel sorry for narcissists. Gets us into trouble.
We feel sorry for everybody, Michelle, millions.
Yeah.
We feel sorry for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we tend to let people rent space in our head for free. Empaths do that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. I don't know. Like I said, I learned to really long ago how to sort of separate some of that. It's not that I don't feel it. I think my skin's just a little tougher.
That and your circumstances in life are different too. I think for me, because I felt that role that I had to take care of everyone, losing my mom at 27, I think that had a big role. Like it was like, the trigger for me that it just started to go crazy ass after that.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it was. Like I was always trying to look at why other people were reacting the way they were reacting rather than protecting myself. And when you're empathic, you pick up on their feelings. So if they're angry or sad, you take that on and don't know it's not yours.
No, it's true.
So the last thing I want to hear is you're moody, because I will kick your behind.
I'm just moody.
I'm not moody. I'm picking up your mood and I'm bringing it back to you.
Yeah. So, well, hopefully we're going to find out a whole lot more about this. If Joe can bring on our special guest, our return special
best-selling author.
There she is. Hi.
Hello. Lady. So are you thinking, when you heard us before the show went live, are you thinking, oh my God, I'm going to hang up
now? Her mostly.
But I feel like you covered everything we're going to cover in the interview.
No, because I have a million questions for you, and you don't know how long I've been looking forward to this. Since our last show, I'm going to be able to, have people that I know and love listen to you because they don't believe me. So
I know. That was last week. Okay, Dr. Rita Louise is coming back. Oh, what were we talking about? Empaths and narcissists. Oh, yeah.
Started
finally,
dancing.
I've been waiting for this.
I've been waiting for this for months. I didn't realize it was next week.
Calm down. So how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Good for you.
Good. I hear you said you were away.
So I am in I have to think about this a second. Northwest Arkansas.
Arkansas. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're going camping and
Nice.
Oh,
fishing,
nice.
and so we're actually at a friend's house, and then tomorrow we're taking our RVs and going to a campground,
Nice.
and because they were like, well, can you go this week? And I'm like, well, I got this interview Wednesday night, so if I can like do my interview, then I'm game.
Thank
So-
you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's so hard because we do book, quite a bit in advance, and plans happen, things change, and we understand. So we're appreciative that you've still chosen to be with little Olas tonight.
So, like,
Well, I
camping.
used to have my radio show, and so there is nothing more frustrating than, well, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and your guest cancels on you, and it's like,
Oh, it wouldn't be the
We go
first
through
time.
that.
Yeah.
We go
Thank
through
God
that a
for
lot.
waiting lists.
Yeah.
Right? Jesus.
Yeah. The waiting
Yeah.
lists are great, but
Amelia would have had a meltdown though, because what do you mean?
if you canceled, I probably would have not showed up. Because I would have felt the pain. But so like camping, like RV camping, not like tents and on the ground dirt camping. Oh, thank God. Okay. Yeah, because I didn't know how to react to that, because I'm terrible. Because I see these things online, like you can actually take this toilet with water in a tank and hook it up with a sink and put it in the forest. And I'm like, well, why not just go to a hotel room then, or get an RV? Because if you're talking about tent camping, then camp in a tent. I don't camp, period. I'm not going to lie. I just don't. I would be the one in an RV. I probably would though.
Camping.
An RV, I probably would, because I'm closed in and safe.
Right.
with air conditioning.
Yes.
She's scared the Yeti's
a
going to
flush
come and
toilet.
get her. Big
No, I'm
butt.
scared of the bears in Canada. I'm scared of the
Bigfoot.
bears up north. Bigfoot, I'd probably sit down and like, hey, dude, you want a coffee? Like, let's sit and talk. But but a bear?
It's really different if you like go off into the woods to
That's
go
what I
camping,
meant. Yes.
Yeah.
and then you can like run around in your pajamas or whatever you got on and go take care of your business. But if you go to like a park,
That's
and
just
tent
harder.
camp, and there's like tents
That's harder.
right there. And
Yeah.
unless there's some big group of you and you just get really drunk, then you don't care anymore.
And all the
Yeah.
girls go together.
Yeah, it's different. It's different, but
Awesome.
I'm really like seeing all the new things they have for camping. I may have tried it when I was younger if they had all those things. It's just I always think if I can't, like, RVs are great because you can plug in a hair dryer, because my hair in the humidity, I swear to God, is like so wiry. You know what I mean? Like I like those little bit of conveniences, and I'm not that
So
great at that nature thing.
My sister got an RV last year, and apparently they found an inflatable hot tub.
Nice.
I'm like,
Yeah.
get that.
You can rent them.
Wow.
I don't know with the
Who knew?
pandemic, but you can rent. Yeah, you can rent them. I know someone who did it for her husband for his birthday. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to be the one cleaning
It's like,
that out.
I don't
But
think I like my
anyways,
husband that much. Here's
Yeah.
a cold shower.
I have a thing about sharing that
I'm
like more than
terrible.
one person. But
No,
so
that's why
why
I'm
don't
married.
we should start? We should start with maybe defining for people who don't know what a narcissist and what an empath are.
Sure. And I'll start with the empath because they're nice people. So an empath is somebody that is sensitive to the energy around them. So for the listeners, if you've had the experience where you felt the vibes in the room, or you walked up to someone and you were like, hey, I'm having a great day. And then you go next to someone or go into an environment and now you're feeling upset, or you're feeling anxiety. I used to do a lot of ghost hunting, and when we'd go into a funky place, I would feel like I wanted to vomit. And I'm like, ooh, I got some bad mojo in this place. And that's the generic definition of an empath. They're psychic sponges. And so if you're feeling good, then I'm going to feel good. If you're feeling bad, then I'm probably going to reflect that energy within myself. And where it becomes a little bit challenging is if you're not aware that this is what you're doing, then you think that your mood is changing all the time and you can't really grasp what's going on. And well, why do I feel bad? Nothing happened, but now I'm feeling bad or upset. And so I think it's really helpful for people to recognize, that this is who they are. And so while you guys were talking, not everyone has empathic abilities. Like narcissists usually do not have empathic abilities. Now, they can feel sorry for themselves, but
I
they
was going to say, I'm pretty sure I'm in a couple or
your
borderline.
situation.
That's about as far as it goes, right?
Unless they can maybe see it through their life experience, but they're not being upset because you're upset. They're being upset because something you did or said triggered them, and now they're upset.
Right. That's true.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Narcissists, are the takers of the world. They are attention seeking. So the classic example is the high school quarterback, when 20 years go by, but he's still pounding on his chest and he thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And, they're usually pretty easy to spot. They tend to be very grandiose. But there's
sorry, I'm laughing because you're naming off family members without even knowing. You already know. He's going to kill me.
But there's also something that's called a covert narcissist. Okay, so, and see, I know a lot about narcissists because I tend to only date narcissists. Narcissistic friends, like my list is huge. But I like the covert narcissist because they tend to be more self-deprecating. They are quieter. They don't run around with that grandiose attitude that they're better than God, and so they're harder to detect. And so you think they're nicer people, but then you start to get to know them, and especially in a romantic relationship, which we can talk about that, which is a whole cycle, and then they change, and then their true colors actually come out.
They're I call them tricksters. They
are tricksters.
Yeah.
But they are the takers of the world.
Look at me. I'm looking at Amelia. I'm just seeing the wheels turning. So I'm like, I'm just going to let you take this one.
Because I've worked with them as well and for them. And as I got older, it became different because I find that, from other people that you're around, like Michelle's a stronger person and she'll say to me, Bubbly, you shouldn't be taking that or whatever. And you see it because sometimes you've been taking it for so long. I think empaths take a lot that they become so conditioned by it. And it's just the way it is. But I found for myself that once I could label that person that way and see them that way, I could distance myself and just keep the peace. But why you said you tend to date only narcissists? Why does that happen? You hear all the time. Is it like Michelle was saying before? Is it that the empaths attract the narcissists or the other way around? Or is it both? Do they just come together like twin flames and in some
How do we stop it?
Yes, that's the best question.
Well, and we'll get to that. And that's why I named my book The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist, because it really is a dance. And to me, the bottom line, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody where I'm going with this, but both the narcissist and the empath, especially the ones that get into relationships with each other, usually have early childhood wounding. I mean, there are narcissists that are born that way. They have, especially like if you're a psychopath, like Ted Bundy psychopath,
Right.
They don't have any empathy. And that is more of a biological thing and not necessarily a life experience thing.
Yeah.
But narcissists usually have very deep inner wounding, which is why they became narcissists in the first place. And they put on a mask to cover up their hurt and their pain. An empath, and you'll find this, Amelia, you'll find this really interesting. So this is my assessment, is that the empath, so people can come into the earth as being very sensitive, and so that's that kind of base level empath sensitivity. But if you come from a home where there has been abuse or trauma or neglect, what the child ends up having to do is they put their tentacles out to make sure the world is safe, to make sure people are safe, that mom is safe, that dad's not drunk, whatever that situation is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is the perfect training ground
Yeah.
to teach you to be really kind of hyperreactive and hypersensitive to your environment. Okay. And so many times the narcissist will find empaths or highly sensitive people that have wounding, and so I'm going to kind of start there. And so the empath, many times, it's like what they're looking for is love. They're looking for compassion. They're looking for someone that's good. Well, the narcissist is all about that. Actually,
I'm laughing at Michelle's
I'm going to make a little segue. So when I was working on this book, because I was working on my own personal healing, I was digging into all these different topics, and there is literally this whole vocabulary that is tied to narcissists and how they deal with relationships. And so I'm like reading stuff, and I'm like, that's what that's called? And there's actually a name for it? I mean, It was really freaking trippy. So it was really weird. So one of
She's being kind.
I got stories, girl. One of the terms, when you first meet someone who's a narcissist, it's called love bombing. And so they will sit there and tell you, you are the best thing since sliced bread, and they'll make you feel like your soulmates. And they're like the perfect person. You sit up all night and talk, and it's just great. And you fall in love with that person. But at the same time, they're like pushing things forward pretty quick. Well, maybe we should move in together. Maybe we should do this, to basically trap you in a relationship. Okay, so not all of my relationships were with narcissists. I had one husband who died, which really sucked. He was married to a bunch of narcissists. And then we got together, and it's actually like pretty cool. And then he freaking died. So that like,
oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
And his comment was, and true story. So we got married, and about a month later, he just looked at me and he goes, well, I'm waiting. And I'm like, waiting for what? And he goes, I'm waiting for you to change. And I'm like, change. I didn't even know what he was talking about. And he goes, well, we got married, and that's my experience. All right. I was wife number 6 for him. Okay. So that was and so I was like, this is it. I don't change, I might not like put makeup on every day, but this is it. And he goes, well, that's been my experience. Every time I got married to someone and they said I do, within weeks, they became a different person.
Yeah.
And so once they feel like they have you secured, you move in together, you have a child together, you get married, whatever that is to bind you, that's when the mask starts to come off, and you start to find out who that real person is. And, but now you're kind of stuck, oh, well, you can quit your job and go back to school. It's like, okay, well, now I can't take care of myself, and I'm not really in a situation where I can go.
Isn't that awesome? And the gaslighting starts, and
the gaslighting starts.
When the gaslighting, you're like, what?
Yeah. And God forbid you give them, God forbid you give them even a touch of I don't want to say a terrible criticism. No, if you even so much as criticize a narcissist, if you don't know what a narcissist is, just criticize who you think might be to their face and watch the flames come out, because they don't take lightly to that. You can't tell them they're doing anything wrong, even if you're trying to stop them from hurting themselves. You're stupid or you're crazy. That's literally what happens.
So let's talk about that then.
Yeah, don't stand for
let's
yourself.
talk
That's
about
right.
one versus the other. Like, how do you identify that? How do you know? empaths are obvious because they're usually, they're picking up on emotions. But what are the traditional things to look for when it comes to narcissists? All you empaths better be listening.
They're
We're
all in the
saving a whole
chat
bunch
room.
of you right now.
They're all in the chat room.
One of the first signs is that love bombing, where they're just right there. They want to talk to you on the phone. See, this was my big downfall, man. I would spend hours on the phone with these guys. I didn't know that was love bombing.
Yeah.
But then once the relationship starts to develop, they do things like start talking about your friends and your family to cut your ties off to them, or bring up things where now you're looking at them going, well, maybe they're really not my friends. And, maybe you're right, because you're still in that trusting place, because if you're a wounded empath, you're still getting the love, you're still getting the attention, you're still getting the adoration that you need to feel whole, because of your own wounding, and so it just becomes this open door. Plus, many empaths, especially the wounded ones, are people pleasers, and so they're willing to take care. See, I know
you've got me like so out there. Honestly, I'm like so exposed right now. Absolutely.
But they start, so as a common people pleaser, you sit there and you start doing stuff, you do the dishes and the laundry, and because they're doing other things. But then over time, they stop really doing anything, and they stop doing anything they don't want to do. So I was with one gentleman, he did like doing yard work, and he took a lot of pride in mowing the lawn and edging it. And so I always had a nice lawn, but that was pretty much it out of him. But if you asked him to do something else, can you take out the garbage? It was no. I mean, it wouldn't ever happen. Your comment about criticizing them or putting up any kind of boundary, or, saying something to them. I was taking notes when you were talking earlier.
Before we went live or after? Because I'm a little nervous.
There's the blackmail notes, and then there's the show notes.
She's got quite a bit for pre-life.
But when you sit there and you make a demand on them, or so let's say the relationship is going and now work is really busy, or you're sick and now I'm sick and I can't take care of you.
Yep.
And they have freaking meltdowns. I mean, or they come and ask, like, I injured my neck. I mean, really bad, where I was like pretty much in bed because I was having a hard time walking around. And so the guy that I was with would come upstairs. I live in a big house, and it's like, I can't find the black pepper. And I'd say, well, it's over here. And I'm like pretty anal about like, this is where things go. And he's like, well, I looked there and I couldn't find it. So now I have to get out of bed.
But isn't that every husband, though, honestly?
No, but
okay.
It was I'm just when I could. But
no, I understand that. I understand that. I was just making a joke because the typical, it's in the fridge. Well, I don't see it, and it's like right there. Yeah.
And so if you're not there and available for them to give them the attention that they want, or you have this baby, and so now you're nurturing and taking care of this baby, and they kind of take it as a slight that you don't love them anymore, or they try to find other ways to get attention, and we'll use that gaslighting to manipulate you to get what they want. And that's one of the other real characteristics, is that they are excellent manipulators. Excellent. And for people that aren't familiar with what the term gaslighting means, it came from a movie called Gaslight, where this guy is married to this woman, and he's trying to make her think that she's crazy. And I have to tell you, my current boyfriend, not a narcissist, thank God. We're watching the movie, and I'm going, okay, so now this is going to happen. I go, this kind of dynamic is going to happen, and then boom, it would happen. And I'm like, okay. And then something else would be going on. I'm like, yeah, he's going to do this. And it's like, boom, it happened. He goes, did you see this movie before? And I'm like, no, he's just a narcissist.
I
And
lived
they're
it. I lived it.
You know, and I think it's interesting because once you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, it becomes a lot easier to tell, you know, versus if you don't know and you just think, well, this is how it is.
Yeah, but
You know,
then they turn it
especially
around
if-
on you to try to make you look like the narcissist, and then you're doing the gaslighting. I'm like, I've had that
Yes.
happen. I'm
Yeah.
like,
The manipulation. The manipulation.
it's not my
That's
fault you have
part
a
of the
bad
gaslighting.
memory. What do you want from me? It's like,
Oh,
I'm not trying to create memories to stick in your head. This really
No.
happened. Yes, you
Yeah.
had tacos 2 weeks ago. I've never had them in my life. Pretty
oh,
damn sure you have. You know, kids
I
are all
like.
going, yeah, we saw you.
I have
I like-
pictures.
That's just tacos. Zachman says, not a husband, but I do admit I have selective sight from time to time. That's just being a man, Zach. But it does happen where sometimes where, in my experience, I've received the help, but there's like a time limit on it because I can only be this way for so long to help you.
In conditions, right?
Very conditional.
Yeah.
Very
And then it comes back at you months later, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just not fun, you know, and with narcissism, kind of like being an empath, there is a scale, you know, and one of the things you guys were talking about earlier is everyone has, you know, narcissistic tendencies, which is true. You know, if we didn't look out for ourselves, you know, and then we wouldn't really get anything done. But there are people that I'm going to say don't have narcissistic tendencies, but they tend to be people that are doormats. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it, where people can just walk all over them and they just take it. You know,
Yeah,
I've
it's
had
sad.
clients, you know, especially in a family dynamic where the parents just control everything.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like, well, you know, you should like take some supplements and do this, you know, and there's all this stuff going on with your family. And, you know, maybe you should maybe cut some ties. No, I can't do that, you know, because the parents control so much of what's going on. Because really,
Even
that's
into
the bottom
adulthood,
line.
like with adult children, is that what you're making reference to?
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
That's why things dynamics change when both parents have passed away, which is what I've experienced. But that's why things change because the parents really do keep, there's no lies to that. They keep the families together. Most do.
Unless you move across the country.
I was just going to say that unless you move, of course. But I'm saying if like, you know, the average family that lives within an hour of each other, whatever, the parents, especially the moms, they'll always try and bring them all home for the holidays. And then one passes away and things change a little bit. But when you lose both of them, it's just like, what the F just happened, you know? But when you look back, you see things like I said. See little narcissistic tendencies and you realize it after. I find also you can't ever give them advice about anything.
That's because they know everything.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Makes
they
sense.
just tolerate you know, because they're, you know, there's a term that's called narcissistic supply. You know, so it's kind of like an energy vampire. I mean, they basically are energy vampires, but but I like that term narcissistic supply because when you're giving them attention, when you're doing the stuff that they want, you're giving them supply, you're feeding them. And so you can have a narcissist who's actually very nice when they're out in public because now they're getting their ego scratched and, you know, they're getting their supply. But as soon as that supply is withdrawn, that's when they start getting not nice.
So can't you have a narcissist that's just nice all the time and just throws you a few zingers every now and then? Like, just curious because honestly, I'm sure, I mean, we all meet people that fit the bill. Like I said, we all have little bits of that in all of us. But I mean, I've seen like some really nice people who appear to be, I mean, you know, nice most of the time. Spouses say, oh no, you know, they never have an issue. But boy, oh boy, every now and then you could just see you get a little look and the little zinger gets tossed at you and never goes anywhere beyond that one moment. It's like,
Yeah, but it's your
did
fault
you
if you
just
get
like,
a zinger. Don't you know that?
I mean, that's
Maybe.
kind of hard to tell.
It's your fault. It's not
You know,
theirs. You created it and you asked for it.
where it really comes down is what's going on when the doors are closed and the lights are off.
right.
I mean, it is very, I don't want to say very common, but you hear the story of the pastor, and everybody loves the pastor and he's a great guy, and then he goes home and he treats his family like crap because that's the real him. He can let his guard down. And so they might throw a zinger at you, but you don't necessarily know if they're just wearing their mask of, hey, I'm this great person, or if it just is a little bit hard to tell, And so, for people that are uncertain, especially if they're, excuse me, getting into a new relationship, give it time. Give it an opportunity to develop. I had a client the other day who was going to move, I don't know, somewhere. And, but it was like 5 hours away and was going to be like packing up and leaving her house. And then the guy like weirded out on her. And it was just kind of like, okay. And I go, well, how long have you been with this guy? She goes, 3 months. And really that's how they like to move, is very quickly.
Way too quick.
And so the way to really get to know someone is to have time, and spend time with them before you make that leap.
Absolutely. You often hear with adult relationships, because so many people are dating more now, and you'll hear, well, I'm old enough, I know what I want. No, you're not. It's not about that. It's about, you think this is what you're getting, but let's make sure. Why do you have to rush into things? You're older. Why rush into it? Why rush into anything? But
well, especially if you're with someone who is basically a pathological liar.
But you wouldn't know that in the first year because you haven't spent enough time with them. I laugh when I hear my friends say that, oh, but I've known him. And then 6 months down the road, I'm getting a phone call. Yeah, he left or whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, no kidding. You've been there for 4 months and he's moving in. It's like, what the hell are you thinking? So,
I don't know.
and I read, someone said that they tend to be passive aggressive. Yeah, so am I, and I'm an empath, and I can be the queen of passive aggressive if I'm pushed,
aggressive, and I admit it.
Yeah, if I'm pushed up against a wall, my God, yeah. So,
but
yeah,
I'm going to put it. But okay, so it's more the covert narcissists that tend to be passive aggressive.
So I'm a covert narcissist.
No.
I'm just kidding. Because
you have to be pushed up against a wall.
Absolutely.
For them, all you have to say is, I don't want to do that. And then they're like finding ways to change things that they can get what they want. But they won't like say anything to your face. So they use passive aggression. They use their passive aggressiveness, to manipulate. But versus, all right, I'm at my wit's end and I'm putting up a boundary and saying we aren't going any further. And this is what's going on.
It's more of a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
True. I'm like, wow, I'm just way too good at that. It comes from being tired. I think can empaths have hope of being able to stand their ground? What can they do to learn how to be stronger and how to spot things?
I mean, definitely. I've been asked the question, well, when you wrote your book, do you think a narcissist would get value out of it? And I was like, well, but there isn't anything wrong with the narcissist because they're fine the way they are. So, when I wrote the book, it was kind of like, well, I'll just talk about them because I know they'll never read it.
No. You're so right.
It's true.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things. It's like people that are more empathic, more open, are always looking basically to fix themselves, fix the world, make themselves better, take steps forward, and have things be different. And so there's more of a willingness to change versus this is what's going on. I mean, you often hear stories of couples that will go to counseling and one of the spouses is a narcissist, and they will literally lie to the counselor about everything so that the counselor thinks, well, they're this great person and they're doing all of this stuff, and all of the problems are the other person's, because they don't want to fix anything and they don't want to take responsibility, which is huge. They don't want to have any accountability. Where the empath is like jumping up and going, oh, yeah, that was me. I'll take on all the responsibility. Yeah, it was my fault.
Yeah, I asked for it. I pushed. I pushed. And Allison made a comment. It's not just guys. No, it's everybody.
It's everyone.
I have friends that women that I can tell you are complete narcissists, and I can have that conversation because even if they're listening right now, they won't even know that I'm talking about them. But yeah. But it is what it is, right? And it's a little different when it's a friend than when you're in a relationship with someone who is. It's a little different because you can distance yourself from someone who's in your social circle, but it's different when it's family.
Yeah, but if you're a good friend, you should be able to say, you're having some of those tendencies.
You can say it, but they'll just say you're losing your mind. Like, that's not my intention. I never did that. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not the way I said it. That's not what I meant. I didn't do that. When did I do that? Oh, I can give you a million of them. But anyways,
but for the empath, I mean, there really is opportunities to change it and have it be different, and, to me, the base is identifying and acknowledging that you have wounding, and the way that they're getting in is because there's a deficit within you that needs to be healed, so that's one piece of it. But many times people that are people pleasers, which is kind of, okay, so there's the fight and flight response, our basic stress response. There's also what's called the freeze response. Are you familiar with the freeze response?
Oh, no.
Okay, so the fight response is like, I'm going to get angry and I'm going to fight with you. Yeah. The flight response is, oh my God, look what's going on, and I'm going to run away. The freeze response is something is going on and I'm going to stop dead in my tracks, kind of like deer in headlight kind of things. And so you're upset and you're yelling at me and I'm just going to stand there because I can't even get myself out of the room. So that's the freeze response. And then there's a fourth response that's not a automatic stress response, but it is identified as being learned before you can even walk. And it's called the fawn response, FAWN, fawn response, where you basically give yourself up to the person, either to receive love or not be punished. And so and that is believed to underlie people pleasing. And then the next level of dysfunction, kind of taking people pleasing to a more dysfunctional level, codependency, where you don't feel like you can be loved unless you're helping. And so addressing that within yourself, really needs to happen, because dysfunctional empaths, they want to give, and they want to fix, and because they feel that's how they're going to get love. And the narcissists are more than happy to take anything you're willing to give away.
That's including your time, if you're listening. That's including your time, not just giving of like materialistically, but giving your time to them and always being available is something that empaths do as well. They're always available.
It's hard because it sounds like it should be a give and take relationship. That's the idea. Give, take, give, take.
You shouldn't have to even look at it and analyze it if it's normal. Really.
But if it's not something that you knew, if you didn't know that that wasn't right, that what you're doing and the behavior you're having isn't a healthy behavior, then you're just going to recreate that over and over again.
That's true. I had to learn that. Yeah. And I think a lot of people want to know how to do that. It's important, but you feel like healing inside first, looking deep down and seeing what happened and why you respond that way
Mm-hmm.
is the
You know,
first
and
step.
So
and
why
it's a
stay?
process.
Why stay? Why stay in a bad? If you know you're in a toxic situation, why stay? Why not get out?
That's a great question. And there's a number of reasons why people stay. And I'm going to address this a little bit more to women, although some of it applies to both men and women. One is they're afraid of being alone. They're afraid that if I don't stay in this relationship, no one else will ever fall. I'll never find anyone else, and I'll never recreate another relationship. And this one for women in particular, they get themselves into a situation where financially they can't get out. And to me, that's one of the saddest ones. It's like, they have a couple of kids. Now they're a stay-at-home mom. They didn't go to college. They have no skills. Their husbands, there's something called financial abuse where they barely give you enough money to buy groceries. And so it's not even like you can sock a little money away, to exit stage left. Sometimes there's so much abuse. I mean, because if you're a narcissist, and I'm not saying all narcissists are violent, but they can be, they can go into what's called narcissistic rage, where they kind of flip out on you. Not all of them do, but some of them do. And you're just scared, because you think that this person's going to come after you, and so that's a scary thing. But there's also something, it's like one of the things I love is everything has a freaking name. So one of the things that happens with this dynamic is something called trauma bonding. Trauma bonding. And so if you're in a relationship and you're receiving all of this good feelings and love, it sends endorphins into your system. And that's the feel, and dopamine. So those are the feel good hormones inside your body. But then, so like everything is great, you're getting along really good. And then later that evening or that night, like they flip the switch, you didn't make them French fries, you made them tater tots. And that was like a deal breaker.
Bastards.
Right there. And now
And
they're
they can
like,
get violent over that. Yeah.
but now they're on your case and being very dismissive. And so now your body goes into releasing cortisol and other stress related hormones. And so one of the things that happens over time is that your hormonal regulation becomes messed up, because you're going through these peaks and valleys of high cortisol, high stress response, a lot of anxiety, to periods where you have this endorphin rush and dopamine rush that feels really good, and makes you feel like you're loved again. And so, it has been said that it is harder to get out of a trauma bond than it is to quit doing heroin. Because,
Wow.
and so like you might sit there and say, adios amigo, I'm going to go. But then like you're gone an hour and now you're looking at your phone. Well, did they text me? Well, maybe I should text them and like say, oh, you're crappy. But what you're looking for is to get that little fix, that little endorphin fix. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, and for them, they're getting supply from you. Right.
Wow. And that's actually fairly common. And you do see it, I think, especially with young people, just getting into, I say young people, probably late teens, early 20s into their 30s, just getting into their first real solid relationship, actively looking and just, I can't tell you how many people I've known over the years who have, it is just like that, just sitting on the phone, or I'm not going to go out in case the phone rings.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not here, then they won't be able to get a hold of me. Like I'm
Oh,
talking
that's
pre-cell
terrible.
phones. No, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Landlines.
yeah, like
Yeah.
landlines, because
Yeah.
cell phones were only not always a thing, and not all that long ago. And even then, people could not always afford them, so it was just sitting at home waiting for the call that never came.
It can be really bad now too, because I would imagine that those type of narcissists would have a GPS set on your phone, so that if you tell them you're somewhere else, they can just check online and see that you're lying.
But
Like,
you can
I know
tell.
people that have done that to their phones.
Yeah, but you can
I've
tell
known
when you're being
people that have had
tracked.
that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also if you tell them to go or you leave, and then they'll always text, they'll always call, because they need their fix. They need their fix more than you need your fix. But then, like, you pick up the phone and you start talking to them, and now they're love bombing you again, and so now you're having this endorphin rush,
Mhm.
and they work on manipulating you so that you'll want to come back. And so it's not uncommon in one of these relationships for them to split up 7 times before the person finally makes a final break from the relationship. And it's one of the reasons why in relationships where there's physical abuse that happens, that you constantly hear, the victim going back. It's because they're trauma bonded. It's like, oh, I didn't mean to beat you up. I've been drinking. I'm not going to drink anymore. I promise I'll go to counseling. I mean, they'll tell you whatever they think you need to hear until you're back. And it'll last a couple of weeks, maybe a month, maybe 3 months that they're on like best behavior. And then the cycle starts over again where you make them tater tots again, and they, blow a gasket.
Right.
We talked about how empaths are born. How are narcissists? Are they born? Is it something they learn?
So, I think that there is a physiological piece for some narcissists, but many of them are just really wounded, that they have their own trauma. One of the things that I felt was that if someone is an empath and something happens, they have hope. They're able to reconnect with source, they're able to ground, and they have hope that one day this is going to end. Where the narcissist doesn't have that belief. It's kind of like, so they have to come up with plan B in order to get their needs met. It's so they just have an expectation of their needs being met. And it's kind of sad because you see that a lot more in young people today, where parents, they don't say no, and the kid will, so narcissist husband, he had 2 kids, which, I finally figured out that I got to be the, like, live in, have sex with nanny. But his son, I took him to Walmart before I even, like, the relationship was really early, and he wanted something and I said no, and he literally sat on the floor in Walmart and started crying and having a hissy fit. Now, if he was 4 or 5,
yeah, you pick them up, put them in the cart.
pretty much.
Yeah.
But he was 9.
Oh.
Yeah, he was 9. And I was like, sorry, dude, I am so out of here. You can sit there and cry, but I'm going to the car. Fortunately, him and his brother turned out to be actually very nice young men, but man, that was a tough road to hoe, making them be accountable and responsible for what was going on, and not just placate them. It's kind of like, okay, so I want this. I want this. No, no, no. But I want it. I want it. No, no, no. But I want it. I want it. No, no, no. So after a half hour of that, it's kind of like, here, just take it and leave me alone. But now you've just taught them that all they have to do is bug you enough and they're going to get their way. And I feel like in today's society, a lot of young people are being taught that. Everybody gets an award and everybody gets a prize, and there's not any requirement that you do anything or be responsible for not doing what you're not doing because everybody gets a prize.
So are we as parents creating narcissistic children that go on to be narcissistic adults?
Yes.
Essentially what you're saying. So it's our fault. Damn it.
That's what I was going for. You don't hold accountability is a big one nowadays. No one takes accountability, accepts responsibility for anything. There's always a way out.
Or they blame it on someone else. I mean, I've had some parents who would bring their kids to me for sessions. And, I remember one, it was a girl, she was like 19, 20, and she was so depressed, just depressed. And I looked at her and I said, well, that's because you don't want to do anything. It's like you graduated high school and now there's this expectation that you go get a job and show up every day and do the work and know after a month you're not going to be the president of the company. That's just life. And she could not do it. I mean, she just couldn't handle it.
So she couldn't be a functional member of society, basically. It was just too much for her. Right. So take care of me.
But it was really a choice. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting.
You're not doing anything good for your children that way. You have to teach them life skills. It's not just saying no. It's a matter of teaching them life skills. It's important. It's very important. Being accountable for your errors is you have to be able to do that to function in a job and working with colleagues. And, it's just part of life. So I have a hard time with, I often say this generation is self-entitled, and I mean it because I said it's all of our fault. I don't see people allowing their kids to work as teenagers. They might tell them to work later when the workload is even heavier when you're going to university. And I'm not saying I'm a better mom because I have very many faults. But, I started working at a young age, and I had my daughter because we have a family business, working at a young age as well. And I think it's important to have that kind of responsibility and understand that it takes this many hours to get that, rather than it should be given to me.
Or it's teaching them, the responsibility, like, well, if you want this, so with the boys in particular, my line with them, and it's all about an equal exchange of energy. Now, I'm not expecting that if I give you $20 to go out to lunch or whatever, that I'm expecting the $20 back, but I'm not, but I'm expecting something. So what are you going to do? Basically, because if you're just going to sit there and want stuff, but you won't do the dishes, or I have to fight with you to do the dishes, then that's not an equal exchange. That's not working for me, And I told them early on, it's like, and if you don't buy me a Christmas present, you ain't getting jack.
You're funny.
I just was, I think it's just important to be real, with your kids and express what's going on.
If someone at home is listening right now and they're starting to think, oh gosh, I'm raising a narcissist, how can they put a halt? How can they put a halt on this? What's something they can do to figure out if they are, and how do I change this?
Hopefully the young person is, not in their mid to late teens, because pretty much by the time you're 14, 15, 16, I would think the damage is pretty much done. And I guess it could be maybe undone, but it would be a lot more challenging. You see these kids and they just like scream at their parents or hit their parents, and it's like, excuse me? But the parents, I mean, and those are the children that will end up being narcissists because they think it's okay. They were brought up in the environment that it's okay to be disrespectful that way, or, well, what I want is more important than you. And, so
Yeah.
the earlier you can do that, then the better it would be.
I think sometimes it's, you do it inadvertently also. You get people who just come from bad childhoods and they think, oh, my children are going to raise them differently. But in the process, they're creating a little monster or a little terror, not realizing, you can't be. But I find certain generations, I mean, life was really hard, back in the day, and then they lean on that abuse from childhood. I'm fortunate. I grew up in a great household, nothing like that, but my first husband, my ex-husband, was just like total opposite. So some people carry that forward. Other
Hmm.
people go the other way. It's almost like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You end up with the same results in the end when it comes to how your child rearing, goes. So it's like,
Mhm.
Well, I mean, abuse can be generational.
right.
Leniency can be generational because this is how I grew up, and I'm not conscious parenting. I'm just doing what I was told and how it was explained to me, and
Hmm.
I'm just doing that,
Right.
and not engaging in what's going on.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Balance is hard.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Yeah.
Balance is tough. You can break the chains. Like I was verbally abused, but my mom was physically abused. And I did neither of those two with my daughter. But my greatest fear was giving too much. So I would be
mhm.
very careful, where she's my world. I'm not going to lie. Anyone who knows me knows that. But I'm proud of her because she doesn't talk back. She doesn't raise her voice. But in the same respect, I want to make sure she's being heard.
Mhm.
It's balance is tough as a parent. None of us, we don't have a handbook, so we do the best we can. But it's I just think, I don't know. Do you find that people who are raising narcissists sometimes are just that, and that's why
Well, I mean,
they?
sometimes it's a narcissist raises a narcissist,
Yeah.
or you could have multiple kids in one family, and these two are empaths, and these ones over here are narcissists, which creates a very interesting family dynamic. Um, and then you have to deal with that, as an adult, um, with that internal family relationship. You know, you remember Dr. Spock, the
Yeah.
baby doctor book
Yes.
guy.
Yes. Yes.
You
Oh,
know,
now we're aging, all three of us. Yes.
I saw it on eBay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
It,
go with
it
that.
already had
I'm with
been in
her.
print. Actually, I think
I'm
it
with
was in
you.
print since like the 50s. I mean, that book's been around for forever.
I have
You
it
know,
on my
but
bookcase shelf. I'm not lying.
but that was like the book on child rearing. However, even Dr. Spock has come out and said that some of the things that he told parents to do, like if your baby is crying, leave it in the crib and let it cry it out, was not good advice because it creates abandonment issues in the child and it makes the child not feel safe.
Yeah.
But then now you have these adults who were abandoned because Dr. Spock created like a whole generation of screwed up
My
people.
mother abandoned me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
terrible.
and so now they're trying not to do that to their children. And so instead of like finding the middle ground, they go and they do the opposite thing, which creates
Oh, wow.
That is really difficult because you're going with the times and you get the best books out there, think you're getting the best advice, only to find out no, you've actually traumatized your child, and just like
Do you want a
and
minute?
yeah, you know, mm, child grows older and goes,
She
I
put some-
remember when you didn't come upstairs and I was crying and you left me crying for like half an hour.
I was 4
It's
months
just like,
old.
it's like, good grief. It was in the book.
Yeah.
It was the best book at the time. The doctor recommended the book. Geez.
I read that
You are-
book and I laughed through the whole thing. I'm like, yeah, this isn't happening. It's just like, no.
Yeah.
I was that helicopter mom, but it also has a lot to do with what I did for work. So
Yes.
yeah, it's wow.
So let's talk about wounded healers.
Okay.
That's interesting. I have never heard that.
So a wounded healer is someone who has decided. I'm sorry.
Take
It's
a minute.
okay.
It's all right.
Take a minute.
Well, and usually I have like little throat lozenges. All right, I'm looking on the desk where I'm staying. I just found an Altoid.
There you go.
What you got on her desk? Is there anything good?
I'm looking for M&Ms or Skittles, just saying.
But a wounded healer is someone who has addressed their previous pain and has worked through it and has emerged on the other side a wiser and more whole person. And so, if you started out at a disadvantage and you became successful, now you're a wounded healer, and so many people think that because you grew up in a situation of trauma that there should be shame around it, and you shouldn't tell anybody, and you sit there and you think, well, I have all of these scars, because of my life and life experience. But the reality is those scars tell the world that you survived, that you made it through this situation and came out the other side a much better and different person than you went into it in the first place.
That's a tough one. It's do you think that that it can ever be undone? No, I'm just trying to think of a way to put it. You're looking at narcissists, how do we stop producing them? Like everybody's wounded, really, some of us we do heal. Others use it as a crutch and they never heal. Right? So
It's okay. We all have dogs.
We all have dogs. All right. Bring the dog up to the camera. Let us all see.
Get a cameo.
Aww.
Oh my goodness.
Hello,
You are
baby.
so cute. Are
Is
you
it
going on a
Riley?
trip?
He's gonna go swimming tomorrow.
Yay.
Are you happy now, puppy? You're part of
Well,
the
I
show.
think
Oh,
he's
so cute.
walking around in this house and he's hearing them.
What's
Oh.
his name?
It's Raylan.
Raylan.
Hello.
Say hi.
There you go.
Hi,
Yeah, you're part of the
babies.
show.
Hi,
Now you're a
babies.
superstar.
You should be happy now.
My baby had his 13th birthday yesterday.
He's 5 months old.
Wow. I
Oh,
remember because last time you were on, you just got him.
That's
And you were
right.
potty training him. That's right.
Yeah.
Still potty training. him.
Yeah. Well, it takes 6 to 9 months, right?
I don't know. I'm ready for it to be done.
Well, when you're camping, you'll love it because he's always outside.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do we stop producing, a generation of narcissists? We're all wounded. It's either a
Ouch.
crutch or you move on from it. How do you get away?
But there's a balance and there's an equilibrium. They're both wounded in their own separate ways, looking to heal, and there are stories of actually having two empaths, that get together. And over time, one will actually take on more of the role of the narcissist, while the other one will take on more of the role of the people pleaser. And so, because if I'm the people pleaser and you say, hey, well, let's go do this, but I don't really want to do it, I'm still going to say, oh, okay. So now over time, I'm teaching them that I have no boundaries and I have no
Mm.
self. And so they will move into that role. And so you can think, well, maybe that person really is a narcissist, but the reality is I trained them to treat me that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It
what
comes
you
back to
allow.
the boundaries thing, and so it really is about that balance because you're going to look for someone that's going to create that equilibrium in you. So the more wounded you are, the more screwed up person you're going to try to find.
Now, what about two narcissists?
That would be very interesting.
So you haven't seen it
I
yet?
knew you were going to say something like that. That's like World War III.
Because they would probably just fight with each other all the time. I mean, maybe if they have like some narcissistic tendencies, and they can kind of get along. But if they're like hardcore narcissists,
Yeah, because that would be constant tug of war, right? I'm in control. No, I'm in control. Manipulation on both ends. And
I couldn't even imagine.
But I'd like to sit in that room and just watch it because I'm just so curious because, you say that two empaths, one takes on a little bit of narcissistic tendencies. With two narcissists where you have one who's more hardcore, one who's less, that one that's less, do they take on more empathic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Makes total sense. So they try to balance things out.
Mm-hmm. But in any relationship, you're always trying to find that level of equilibrium. With the empaths in particular, they're always looking to find that balance point. I mean, I don't know about you, Amelia, but I know for me, it's like, if there's a bad vibe in the room, I'm looking at trying to like, what do I need to do to have it not feel bad or have it not feel funky?
Throw light.
Throw light. That's where my people pleasing skills comes in. I talk a lot because I'm really nervous and I try to make jokes. I make light of everything. I know that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I say the stupidest things at the most inappropriate times because you're just so uncomfortable, right? They just come out and it's like Tourette's,
I just rather not talk
really
to
is.
anyone. I just start people watching.
Yeah. You're quieter. Yeah.
I am. I just watch. I watch everything. I see everything. You just absorb it, I think, a little bit more.
Absorb it and I don't know how to deal with it. And it's like that. And anyone who knows me knows I'm uncomfortable. But people who don't know me think that I want the attention when I really don't. That I don't understand why I'm talking.
Bubbles likes to talk a lot.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what the situation is behind
I have a hard time with quiet. Quiet moments when there's other people. I have a really tough time. I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I get anxiety.
Yeah, but that's how your anxiety is presenting itself, So maybe when you find yourself in those situations where you're talking all the time, you need to stop and take a deep breath and go, okay, what's making me be anxious?
It could be one person in a room. I mean, I think with empathic people, there could be one person in the crowd who's, gives you that angst and you could just center them out right away. You just have to zoom right in on them. I think it's almost like its own phenomenon. It's like how you can take all those energies and zero in on the one problematic individual.
They don't even have to be in the room with me.
Right.
I mean, there are days that I'll wake up and be like, I don't know what's going on. My back hurts. This is, whatever. And then like later that day, I'll do a client session. And what are we talking about? We're talking about all this crap going on with them and their back hurts. And I'm like, oh, it was you that I was picking up at 8:00 this morning. Thanks.
I want to do a quick station ID because I want to bring this conversation to the workplace because we focus so much on a marriage, but we do have issues at work. You're listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano, and tonight's special returning guest we love and like to call her our third host, is Dr. Rita Louise, and we're talking narcissist versus empath and vice versa. You are listening to, if you're in New Orleans and listening to us on FM, you're listening to 107.7 or 105.3 FM. We love you, New Orleans. We are United Public Radio, and this broadcast is brought to you fully sponsored by the good folks at Folgers Coffee. Thank you, Folgers. And thank you all for tuning in and being in the chat room tonight. We're with Dr. Rita Louise, and we're talking narcissist and empath. Which one are you?
Yeah, you know you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we bring. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I just wonder. People actually know. Like, I know I'm empathic, and I know I have narcissistic tendencies for sure. You really piss me off. I'm just gonna really hurt your feelings, and I might even make you cry. But it's just,
I've never seen it with her, and I've known her for almost 3 years. But whatever.
I can control myself. Like, I'm not one of those uncontrollable.
The right answer would have been bubbly. You don't give me reason to, but that's okay because as an empath, I'm going for that one first.
Well, we know that. That's a given. But
the empath in me is like going right away to the other side.
But, how many, on an average, if you had to put a percentage, how many people do you think don't know they're narcissists? Most people know they're empathic because they're emotional, or they pick up on other people's emotions. All of them don't know they are. Oh, ouch.
Or they would never own it, because that means they have to take responsibility for it, because there's not anything wrong with them. It's all your fault, your problem, and there's something wrong with you.
You're crazy, you're oversensitive, you're too tired, you've been around your family too much, this person's pissing you off, so you're taking it out on me. If I could write a book. Yeah. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, there we go.
I did.
I know. Keep doing it because we love them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's really difficult. I'm just, I have to start paying more attention to the people around me. Because I don't label people, And
the saddest part is that they're not really interested in changing, and they're not really interested in fixing something. And part of it is, for them to change, they would have to look inside, and people that tend to be empaths, they tend to be way more self-reflective. And well, what could I have done differently? Okay, well, this is really uncomfortable, Where a narcissist they just move on, because if they're not getting what they want from you, if they're not getting this kind of supply that they want from you, they're like, I'm out of here. Or they start looking for someone else, and they, get on chat rooms, and start messaging other people, and they
need to be stroked. They need the egos stroked, basically, or somebody who's just going to fall all over them.
But that's because why they fall in love with the love bomber.
Yeah.
And so, and so it's really sad, because let's say I end a relationship with a narcissist, within a couple of weeks, they're already out dating again.
If not, then a few days later.
If they haven't already started to line someone up prior to leaving you. Because now I'm taking care of the baby, so I don't have time to take care of you and your needs in the same way. Wow. And so now I'm going to go over there and start getting my ego stroked over there. But now I just found out that that's what you're doing, and I kick you out. Well, now they just go to that person. And so, you hear a lot of people that get really hurt because the relationship ends, and within weeks they're online, they're on Facebook posting pictures of them and their new girlfriend and how great it is and how beautiful they are.
They can't be alone.
No.
They can't be alone.
And so you, as the dumpy, it's like,
Right.
knife in the heart, because it's like, God, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Is there something wrong with me? They've been saying that I'm like nuts and I got all these issues. Are they true? So it's,
well, that falls under gaslighting, right? You start to believe all the little, you start thinking back all the little quips that are being made.
Mm-hmm.
They're very good at making you believe that you couldn't live without them in any capacity, whether it's financially, emotionally, any capacity.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mine were mostly pretty useless, really. But that's because I was just so capable of doing all of this stuff that they didn't really have to do anything.
Right.
Where I wanted to bring it, if it's okay with you guys, is into the workplace. I worked for and with a narcissist, and I honestly believed for a couple of years that I didn't have a gift and couldn't function without them in my life. It's an awful feeling, because as an empath, you want to please your employer. You want to please your bosses, your managers. You want to be the perfect colleague, the perfect person to have a desk next to. You don't want to cause any disturbance. How do you handle that in the workplace without, especially for women, break down a little bit more? But I mean, men have to deal with it as well. Narcissism, guys with guys and whatever, even female bosses, it's all the same.
There's two choices: that you accept that this is what the situation is, and you kind of back your energy out of it and just go with the intention of, I'm just going to go and do my job, and you take the emotional piece out of it, and like, I'm not trying to please my boss because I'm just here. Which some people will do actually in a marriage too. It's like, well, we have kids together, I'm just going to disengage. And the other choice is to leave. If it's really that bad and that uncomfortable, then leave, because it just ends up being abusive to you and continuing that pattern of abuse by staying, even if it is in the work environment.
I had that a lot in work. One time I was very fortunate. She got fired. So it worked out great. But anyways, that's like the perfect blessing in a workplace. But yeah, sometimes if people are working with family, that's a tough one too. If you're partners and you've got that going on and someone can't get out of something, what are some good tips for them to be able to cope with it, and how can they start? It's got to be a mindset, right?
I mean, it's a mindset. There's something, yet another term called gray rocking.
I never heard that.
And so where I've heard it used, but I could see where it could be used in the workplace as well, is that you just give basic questions or just give basic answers to questions. And so, well, how are you? I'm doing great. But you don't ask back, how are you? Because now you've just engaged them in a conversation. And so you just keep everything very clear cut, professional, but they want to engage you in the conversation, but you just don't give them the opportunity. You just give yes or no, minimal answers to what they're wanting from you, and just call it good.
Then you're here. Is something wrong? Did you have a bad day? Is something wrong? Right.
That's stuff you deal with after, yeah. But to keep the peace at work, like that one's tough. Some people can't leave their jobs. They have to stay there, financial reasons, whatever, growth, whatever it is. It's like, yeah, I could imagine.
That's okay. Everybody on the network's got puppies. So yeah, so basically it seems to me like we're kind of caught in a world of both empaths and narcissists, and it doesn't look like it's something that's ever going to come to an end. I think it's just, quickly trying to recognize, I guess, who they are, because you can't get rid of family.
Well, family.
You said that 3 months too late.
Yeah.
Dealing with family is like, graduate work. Dealing with your friends.
I love that it's graduate work.
It is. Dealing with acquaintances, you can just sit there and not engage with them. It's a little more complicated if you're in a relationship with someone. Right. But if it's your family, they know every single way to push every single button, and there's also in a family dynamic, we all have our roles, So I was the scapegoat. My sister was the martyr. My brother was, there was a million of us, but, my brother was the golden child. And so when you're in a room with your family, it's kind of like you always kind of go back to your role, So now you're coming from this funky place where, I'm the youngest kid and I have to like be the youngest kid role and not assert myself because I'm not the oldest, So it, there's also that dynamic that happens.
Yeah, that's hard.
Again,
That's
it's
hard.
graduate work.
Yeah, no matter how old they get.
Family, if you can navigate your family, you can navigate anybody on the planet.
It's a lot of the woe is me syndrome, like
drama.
you can lose a pet, they can lose a pet. And you're trying to be, I'll use an example. I'm not saying it's a case, but you could say, oh, well, I know how you feel because, this, how we are with your pets is my baby. It's not the same. Okay. Not the same.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So what is that?
I call that a one-upper.
But see, that's kind of narcissistic. So I had to put my last poodle down. Her name was Bitsy. And the guy, the psycho-narcissist guy that I was living with, didn't want to take off work. And I had her cremated. And that was fine because I really kind of didn't want to go with him to deal with it.
Yeah.
And the cremation place closed at 5:00. So I had to have it done and be 25 miles away before 5:00. And he didn't get out of work till 4. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to take off work, then I'm just going to make an appointment. I'm not going to just call the vet and go, oh, well, I'm coming right now. I had to make an appointment. And so I got one day of him kind of empathizing with me and, letting me have my emotions. She was 14. She was part of my life,
Yeah.
And, but then the next day, it turned into, well, you didn't want me to go with you. And it turned into this whole thing about how I was treating him badly because I didn't want to wait for him to get off work so that he could go and support me while I put my dog down. And even though I said, well, I had to be there before 5:00, and I made the appointment for 10 because that's when they could fit me in, none of that mattered because I didn't wait for him.
It was me again. So turning the attention onto themselves, and I want the sympathy now. You have to feel badly for me.
And then you get dissed because now I did this really awful thing because I didn't wait for him to put my freaking dog down.
Your dog's licking your mic. That's why I was laughing.
That's because he's a good helper.
Yeah. Keeping it clean.
Aw. He's like, am I doing good? How am I doing for my debut?
You didn't even brush my hair or anything.
So sweet. Wow.
Well, and I would have left him with the other people in the house, but he's a little attached to me and he will wail.
Aww.
So I call him Wailin' Railing because it's just like, okay, he's so going.
Cute. Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, so I'll be in here and he'll be at the door just, screaming.
Give me the attention.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're narcissist here or anything.
That is so cute.
Makes you wonder, can animals be narcissists? I'm pretty sure I had a narcissist dog.
PETA?
Yeah, it's a freaking pound and a half of it. It's all about me. Let's get up. We're getting up now. Dinner is served now. Blah, 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 blah.
That's what's going on. Oh.
Well, So,
but I think the important piece is that, people that are empaths that might find themselves getting in relationships with like
mm,
really crappy people, it doesn't have to be that way. That they can change who they are so that they're attracting different people, and better people. And the
mhm,
ones that aren't being respectful or
mhm,
acknowledging them, they can put out of their lives,
mhm,
and make different choices. If someone's not bringing you happiness, or if you're not happy, then why are you doing it?
mhm. So, where can you really get help for something like that? I mean, aside from maybe going to a counselor or a therapist to just say, look, this is obviously something, because people will say marriage counseling, for example, but let's face it, they're going to put on a different face when they go there. They're
Hmm.
not going to say, yeah, this is me and all my pride and glory. They're just going to sort of get a little sheepish and make themselves look like a victim or just be perfectly perfect.
So I went to marriage counseling with one of the narcissists. And well, it's just really embarrassing because I've been
Good.
married way too many times, and I'm in way
That's
too
The
many
okay.
narcissist, all
relationships.
right.
You're trying.
And basically after a few weeks, it came around that I was the person that had the problem, and these were the things that I needed to do so that he could be happy.
Wow.
But I'm the one that wanted to go to counseling because I was the one that wasn't happy.
That's not a good counselor though if they
I
can't spot
fired
that.
her.
Yeah.
I
She
fired her.
she couldn't spot it. She's not good at her job if she didn't recognize that she was just being played by one.
Hmm. But that was before I knew about all the narcissism things.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
But she should have known.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
what if you're in there and you're completely green about things like this? Most people don't even label. They wouldn't even think to label somebody. Well, you're a narcissist. You have no idea. You just look at there. You're mentally or verbally accosting me or emotionally abusing me. You don't look at it past that. So, how do you get out of that if you're going and you're taking the time to go to seek help?
hmm and it's just probably been in the last 5 or 6 years that that concept of narcissism really has come into the public view. But if you go on like YouTube or search online, there is so much material out there. And so if you're not sure if the person that you with is a narcissist, just I'm serious, look on YouTube,
Wow.
because there are
Oh, tons of videos.
tons of videos,
Yeah.
as well as videos about healing attachment issues or learning to deal with codependency, or, dealing with mommy issues or whatever it is. Um, but I think understanding what is going on in that moment and looking at the patterns, because, we were talking about the trauma bonding, and you go through those cycles of it's good, it's really bad, it's good, it's really bad, and
Yeah.
so just starting to look at those cycles, is just one way of paying attention to what's going on, and raising your awareness about what's going on in your relationship, but ultimately, are you helping? He says, I thought I was giving this presentation.
He's
But
so cute.
ultimately, it's your job to make yourself happy, and
Mhm.
no one else is going to do that for you. And
Right.
so if you're not taking steps to make sure that you're happy, at least more time than not. I mean, if you spend at, 50% or more of your time worrying, like, well, I was thinking about making potato puffs, but I don't know if it's going to freak them out or not. If you're spending all of your time worrying about if I do this, they're going to have this kind of reaction,
Oh wow.
or, spending all your time in the mental gymnastics because they're trying to manipulate you, and you're going, well, I don't really even understand what's going on, then maybe there's something not right. I mean, every relationship has issues. You have difficult periods, um, where there's stuff going on with either or both people, And that's normal. But if it's a consistent and ongoing thing that has been going on for an extended period of time, and you don't feel like there's going to ever be anything changing,
Mm.
you know, if you have a partner that drinks too much, you know, and you sit there and put up the boundary and say, you know, no more drinking, or, you know, I don't care if you have a couple of beers, but, you know, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But if they don't sit there and respect what you have to say about what's going on, and then, you know, they get really drunk, and then you're like, okay, you know, you cross the boundary. It's up to me to identify what the consequence is, and then I have to live with the consequence that I set. Versus saying, okay, well, don't do it again, or you need to go to AA, or you need to go to counseling, and then they change their mind, they don't want to do it, but I'm still not holding up the consequence I had. So I guess the key word is, you know, having boundaries and then sticking with the boundary.
Yeah, say what you mean what you say, follow through, basically.
Just like parenting.
Anything, yeah. Well, you are
you know, if
parenting
you're with
in
a
a way.
guy, you know, it is. No.
Yeah.
Kind of is, you know.
Pretty much is, yeah.
I want some of the worst narcissists that I've dealt with in my life, and I know other people that have as well, are ones who were either addicts or recovering addicts. They're one of the most difficult because everything's just blamed on the substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
That is tough. That is the one time that I'm like screaming, just get out, you know, unless they're willing to take care of themselves and change themselves. I mean, people can come out of addictions. They can work through it. I've seen it. They're incredible people after. But if they don't choose to, you have to know when to walk away from this as well. Because if somebody doesn't want to help themselves, you know, it's like that angry drunk thing.
Mm-hmm.
A drunk narcissist is like hell.
Exactly. You know, and a lot of times people that have addiction issues, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, whatever the addiction is, usually there's some level of wounding that they're using the addiction to self-medicate so that they don't have to deal with it. And so the people that work through it and get out of it, you know, are willing to look inside. But a lot of the times, those people are actually empaths, but the addiction, they allow the addiction to overrule everything.
Wow.
And then the addiction causes them to be narcissistic because the drugs are more important. The alcohol is more important than anything else.
And you have to keep amping it up.
Correct.
Right. After a while, it's the boundaries that you just keep raising the bar. Is that right? Like you just have to keep, it's not enough at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
You know, so it's not that every alcoholic or drug addict or whatever is a narcissist, you know, it's that they're wounded, you know, and it doesn't mean that they can't be a narcissist and be an alcoholic or a drug addict. But I think, okay, this is my 2 cents, is that a lot of them are just using it as a Band-Aid and then they just lose control over what's going on. I think it's the ones that choose not to do anything because they don't think that there's an issue. Those tend to be more the narcissists because there's not anything wrong.
That's true. That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's easier to get rid of the other half than it is to get rid of the family. You just got to kind of wait out, you know. You can either like roll with it one way or, you know, that's where the zingers come in. You know, I know. I don't know. There's a lot of good stories out there, but I don't know if we're X-rated or not, but, you know, yes, I know. Yeah, I have to say it because it's just funny, but I knew of someone, I'll leave it right there, who had a sex addiction, right? And I fell into a lot of, you know, ladies of the night, shall we say, because, you know, it's in your profession is what it is. It takes two. But the biggest thing was, well, you know, I got a compliment. I was always complimented It's just like, then you come home and you give the compliment and looks at you and goes, "Oh, thank you." You hold out your hand and say, "Well, I want like $200. Why? Because I paid your compliment." It's the same thing, fool.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Leave it
That's
on the
like, you know,
nightstand if it makes you feel better.
I know, right? I'm sorry you paid for that compliment. It's like, I don't know. I thought
That's
it
too
was hilarious.
funny.
It's
I thought it was
sad.
hysterical, but yes,
Yeah. It's so sad because they should be
Yeah.
in therapy.
Yeah, well, I guess that's exactly what Dr. Rita Louise is saying. If you have to acknowledge that problem, if you don't acknowledge it, to me, when you're looking at all like a whole array of addictions, for example, even one addiction, you would think that that would be enough of a red flag. But for narcissists, basically, you're saying the biggest red flag is this need to move very, very quickly, sort of wooing you and just taking you, treating you like the princess, putting you on the pedestal, and then rings on the finger and bam, honeymoon's over.
The honeymoon might not be over like in a month, as
Right.
was suggested.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's usually that's the first,
Right.
that's the first move in the chess game is
Right.
the love
Okay.
bombing.
Well, that's what you
But
gotta
your
watch for.
suggestion of criticizing them, or having
Right.
some kind of a boundary, will usually set them off.
Right.
I mean, that will normally happen. Um, there's a woman, Lisa Romano, and I don't know. And so she has videos on YouTube about codependency. And I guess her dad was an alcoholic. So, I mean, she's coming from this place naturally. And, and her comment was, it's that people, you're always ending up around narcissists. I mean, because they're just people, or you might end up getting into a relationship with a narcissist. And so that you can tell the person that's healed versus the person that's not healed based on how long they let the narcissist hang around.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a situation where it's not healthy, and you're not being respected, and then it is, your choice to either stay or go. And if you stay, then it's kind of on you.
Yeah, it's like you're accepting it.
Right.
Right. I don't like it. So, word to the wise, but it's the best advice you can give everybody as we're nearing the end of the show.
Love yourself, and honor yourself, and, internalizing, well, what's right for me, or how does this make me feel? Because when you have boundaries, you honor yourself, you take yourself into consideration. If you're someone who's a people pleaser, which many unhealed empaths are, they don't ever take themselves as part of the equation. It's always, well, what do they want? Oh, okay, I can do that. Versus, well, what do I want? And they just get the benefit of like hanging out with me, because it's not where they go to, where the narcissist just, well, this is what I'm doing and you can come if you want. And so it's really about looking inside and putting yourself first.
So that's the key, maybe, is self-worth, self-love. You can't change them. So maybe it's better to change yourself. It's the easiest fix, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you, after all of this show tonight, still don't see it, if you're the peacemaker in any relationship, chances are you're highly empathic. But anyways, yeah. Wow.
So,
I was giving a presentation to a Lions Club or Rotary Club or something. And so I was talking about the 4 selves. And so one of them was self-love. And so I made the comment about, well, it's important for you to take yourself into consideration, in the things that you do. And, Lions Club, Rotary Club are service organizations that help people do stuff. And oh my God, it's like these people had a heart attack because I was suggesting in their mind that they be narcissistic in taking themselves into consideration. But if you're constantly giving away the store, to everybody, then you're burning out your own batteries, and
It's true. No,
and it's just important, that equal exchange of energy, having that and taking yourself into consideration is part of having that equal exchange.
And the minute you take that time to self-care, you'll find all the narcissists around you just sort of, it's texting and it's like, why aren't you there? Like, what's going on? Is, not even, is everything okay? And then it's, well, whatever. She just doesn't want anyone there. I didn't do anything.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Also on Facebook, there's a bunch of like narcissistic groups. There's, empaths and suffering from narcissistic abuse. I mean, so if you're concerned, there's a lot of resources out there that are free that you can at least start looking at.
Right. So you don't have to, if you can't afford a counselor, for example, then there are other ways where you can get self-help.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, I have to say it was
Dr. Rita's book.
it was interesting because, like I said, I don't typically put labels like that. But when you put the label on and you explain it, it's like, see, that's why everything has labels. It all makes sense. That's why. But tell everybody how they can find you, what you have coming up, and just promote.
Okay. So my website is soulhealer.com, soulhealer.com. And what we were talking about was my newest book, which is The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist. Create healthy relationships by healing childhood trauma. And, the commentary has been, oh my God, or you made me cry, which I feel like I've done my job when I've made you cry. And basically you get to hang out with me, and it's a little on the sarcastic side. And, but it definitely is a self-help kind of book. I'm sorry, Raylan's like trying to eat everything here. And so on my webpage, if you sign up for my newsletter, I've been releasing a healing trauma series, which is talking about the stress response and like that's the part that I've released already, but then getting into some practices like meditation, grounding, mindfulness. But then I have like this whole, I've been a writing fool. And if I could figure out how to take all this new material and package it into a book, which I haven't figured out yet, I would. But I have a whole new series talking about complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I have a series coming out about relationships. Should I stay or should I go? And having you take a look at what's going on in your relationship dynamic, not necessarily with a narcissist, but just relationships, to help you kind of work through that process of, am I happy in the relationship or not? And if I'm not, what to do next. So I've been a busy bee.
You certainly have, because it's only been 5 months, and I don't remember all this last time.
No, this has been new. Wow. And so that's being posted on the website, but also you'll get it in your email box if you subscribe to the newsletter, soulhealer.com. All of my books, including The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist, are available on Amazon.com as well as on soulhealer.com.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you. Wow, thank you so much. Aside from the fact that you're a whole lot of freaking fun, and the dog's a bonus, just saying.
Yes.
So,
that was awesome. Thank you.
And you are back in October for Halloween month, so I know that's going to be a blast too. So for those of you who didn't get enough of Dr. Rita Louise, don't worry, because she's coming back. So.
Well, and I have some new material. So one of the things, I'm looking at the clock, I talk about is attached entities, especially in my ghosty type stuff. Yeah. And I have a whole new angle about attached entities that I don't know, it just came to me. It's like, oh, well, actually part of it had to do with this healing trauma series that I was doing research. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's what happens when you have an entity attachment. It was like a lot of blocks all fell together.
Yes,
Nice.
I like it.
And then by
I
then,
like it
Raylan
too.
will be potty trained, we hope.
That's it.
It's only
Come on,
October.
we had one whole day of no peeing or pooping in the house yesterday.
Aw,
Be
he looks
careful.
at you. What are you talking about? Stop giving away my secrets, mother. That's
the
right. We're
best.
talking about you. Oh, bye-bye, baby.
Bye.
Bye. Have a
baby.
great trip. Have a great time
Yeah,
camping.
have
Thank
fun.
you.
And we'll
Thank
see you in
you.
a few months.
Okie dokie.
All right. Thank you. Night, night,
Bye.
everybody. Say
Bye.
goodbye to Dr. Rita Louise. And for us here in the Outer Realm, we have come to the end of another awesome segment. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, of course, in the chat room, to our special guest, Dr. Rita Louise, to our producer, Joe Montaldo, and of course, the biggest thank you ever to Folgers Coffee, who fully sponsors all of our shows now. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Remember to stop by our YouTube pages on International Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio and subscribe while you're there. Feel free to head over to the Outer Realm on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. If you'd like to drop us a line, go to the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Again, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. And a little bit more news here, people. Time to vote. So voting is open. So please go to www.podcastawards.com. Again, www.podcastawards.com. Find us, the Outer Realm, under the social category, and kindly cast your vote, hopefully for us. And while you're there, please find our colleagues. We have the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast under Education and Storyteller Drama category. The Centralist is under the News category. Science and Beyond is under the Science category. So go on over, show us some love as much as we love you. Come on back tomorrow night, and we welcome back Dr. Elliot Van Dusen, and he's going to be discussing his current research within both the parapsychology and the paranormal fields. And he's going to be touching on a case or two. And one of them seems to have a little bit of a twist. So I think it's going to be awesome because all of our guests are awesome. And Elliot's just a hoot, just a wealth of knowledge. So everyone, good night. And we shall see you again tomorrow night. Same time, same place.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate for your favorite podcast. There are 4 amazing shows I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards, the longest-running premier awards event in the podcasting space, open to shows worldwide. You can vote at podcastawards.com and nominate the following shows. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in the categories of education and storyteller drama. This show is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard and provides writing tips and art advice from contest judges, winners, and industry professionals for writers and artists wanting to take their next step, along with the needed inspiration to keep on going. Next one, The Centralist in the category of politics and news. The Centralist is a much different news and political program. It is not opinion news, it's just the facts so you, the people, can make up your own minds on the different stories reported on. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources. Science and Beyond in the category of science and medicine. Science and Beyond is a true science-based program that explores every aspect of science, from how things work to why we need science, and where science can't explain something, we go beyond to see if we can figure it out on our own how something works. The Outer Realm in the category of society culture. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, with guests who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, cryptozoology, and anything else that would be deemed otherworldly. Nothing is off limits in the Outer Realm. Michelle is an international public figure and has spent the last 18 years working in the paranormal. Her co-host Amelia is a remote viewing medium with 9 years experience working in missing children and cold and active murder cases. So go to podcastawards.com to vote for these 4 shows and any others you enjoy listening to. That's podcastawards.com.